When it comes to morally grey or outright evil characters and gacha games, there is always a tricky situation regarding their status as a playable character. I've noticed that a lot of games do not know how to handle these types of characters. It's easy to think that people won't pull for evil or morally grey or characters with a questionable history, so they end up either never becoming playable or written out of the story, RIP Signora, or what most people fear the most, redeemed. In my opinion, people don't hate antagonistic characters, even if they are somehow redeemed, if done right. But from a narrative standpoint, it's not easy to construct a story where the character is redeemed and it doesn't feel forced, like it's just a marketing tactic to try and make the character more desirable. Developers severely underestimate the willingness of the player base to pull for villains. Sure, there will be people who will hate them based on the actions that they've done in the story, but I think that most people won't really have a problem with a character being of a questionable morality, as long as the gameplay is fun, and the story is compelling enough to give a good reason for their actions. In fact, I feel like that might even be a plus for a lot of people. Regardless of that, when Kuro announced that Phrolova will finally become playable, many people were concerned with how Kuro will handle her story. Some were afraid that they will try to completely redeem her character, stripping her of any complexity and reducing her to just another member of Rover's harem. Others thought that they would give her a generic backstory and make her to be an antagonist just for the sake of being an antagonist. But fortunately, Kuro proved everybody wrong and managed to craft one of the best character backstories in the entire game. Not only did they explain why Phrolova ended up being the way she is and why she did all those atrocious things in the story, but they also didn't completely redeem her character and had her join Rover's side. Phrolova is a very complex character with her own struggles and motivations, and while I don't agree with most of her actions, she's a very nuanced character that feels human, which is ironic given the fact that she is part Tacet Discord. Anyway, welcome! In today's video we are going to explain Phrolova's backstory, her relationship with Rover, what happened at the end of the 2.5 story quest, and talk about the possibility of her returning in the future. Wuthering Waves is a game that I have been playing for a long time. And although I never made any content on it, I've been enjoying the game a lot. So if you want to see more WoWa lore videos or WoWa videos in general, please leave a like and a comment down below to let me know. If I can be totally honest with you, the future of Wuthering Wave content on this channel solely depends on the support you guys show for these first few videos. We meet Phrolova very early during the Wuthering Waves story. She is introduced to us as a Fraccidus overseer who tried to revive the Trinodian overtracks in Jinzhou together with her associate Scar. Then in 2.0, together with Cristoforo, they were plotting the events that involved the Trinodian Leviathan in Rinascita. So she was basically the only antagonist who was present from the very beginning of the story, but despite that, she was the antagonist we knew the least about. Every time she appeared in the story, she exuded an aura of mystery and faint loneliness, always making me wonder what's her story. If we look at her design, the color palette used for her is primarily red, which seems to be the primary color associated with the Fraccidus. But it's also a color that represents Phrolova as a character very well. While in her backstory we see her wearing black clothes, symbolizing her mourning for the people of her hometown, after she joined the Fraccidus she switched to red, symbolizing a more resolute attitude. She's done mourning, she's now determined to bring back the people she holds dear, and she's prepared to do anything for her goal. even commit atrocities beyond imagination. Red is a color that symbolizes fiery passion, and while Phrolova doesn't seem very fiery at a first glance, her resolve to do anything for her goal definitely burns bright. Red is also associated with the licorice, a flower that is always present in Phrolova's design and story. We even see her use the flower to conduct the frequencies around her. Now, the licorice is a flower with multiple meanings. It is said to symbolize the concept of death and afterlife, which are closely related to her character, since, for one, she literally died. And second, you can argue that the Lost Beyond is a form of afterlife that she created for the people of her hometown. Another nice reference to the idea of afterlife is Hecate, the tacit discord she summons to aid her in battle. The name Hecate comes from the Greek goddess Hecate, who is associated with magic, witchcraft, and with the concepts of crossroads, which is very fitting because she is at the crossroads between a human and a tacit discord. Phrolova comes from a small village called Ostina. Not much is known about the village, only that it existed a very long time ago. As we see in her backstory, Phrolova was a musician who left her hometown to pursue music. One day, upon her return, a cataclysmic meteor shower descended upon the city and killed everybody, including Phrolova. Luckily, or unluckily for her, at the same time as the disaster, she awakened as a resonator and gained immense regenerative powers and was revived. She also gained the ability to conduct the frequencies of the world. Using those abilities, Phrolova collected the frequencies of her townspeople before they could dissipate and hosted them in her own body, sharing their feelings and pain before death. From there, her only goal was to find a way to bring back the people of Ostina. For a very long time, she wandered around the world and tried everything. She tried turning to divinity, only to be met with silence. She tried turning to science and joined the court of Savante, only to be a test subject. She tried turning to the people, only to be scrutinized. In the end, she gave up. She donned her black clothes and started hosting concerts around the world, mourning the loss of her people, until one day she met a certain someone. There are many misunderstandings when it comes to the relationship between Rover and Phrolova. Some people try to read too much into it, while others refuse to see why, despite being brief, the promise carries such an important meaning for Phrolova. Up until that point, Phrolova has already given up on her goal. She was more like a ghost, wandering alone and mourning the loss of her people through her songs. Rover was the first person to realize her lament, her loneliness, her mourning, which is depicted very beautifully in the fact that they refused to clap at the end of her concert. One fun fact about the concert where Rover and Phrolova first met is that the concert hall was constructed right where Frolova's town used to be, but so much time has already passed since the disaster that nobody remembered it. After Phrolova found a kindred spirit in Rover, their words would offer her a glimpse of hope. A person can always start over, and nothing is truly lost as long as you are willing to not give up. The conversation between the two ends with a promise from Rover to meet again. From Frolova's perspective, Rover was the first person she met in her long journey that understood her. They were the first person to bring her hope, and also the first person that she might consider a friend. So the significance of this promise holds a lot more value than a simple means for a reunion. She gave up on people a long time ago, so being able to form a bond with somebody meant a lot to her, yet even this promise ended up in disappointment. Rover never showed up. She waited and waited and waited until she finally lost all hope. This is when she was approached by the Grand Architect, who showed her a possibility to realize her dream if she joined the Phrolova. At that point, Phrolova was already a broken, hollow shell. She didn't care that the Phrolova was using her. In fact, it was better that way because she knew from the very beginning that their relationship was purely transactional. She gave up on her human morals and values and promised to herself that she will do anything in her powers to make her dream come true. We all know that the reason why Rover never showed up was because they gave up on all their memories and had a fresh start. And this is also a point of ideological conflict between the two. For Phrolova, her memories are the most important thing, the only thing that kept her going through her long life, to the point where she literally was stuck living in the past with them. So, for her, Rover's decision to completely erase his past made no sense. In a way, she was almost shocked, not understanding why they would do something like that. Why would Rover throw away all the relationships that they have built, all the promises that they have shared, and all the experiences that they have accumulated? And while we don't really know a lot about Rover's past and why they've chose this path, Phrolova's frustrations towards Rover's decision and actions in the story are justified. Regardless of what she did, the truth is that Rover did fail her, and that hurt. During the 2.5 story quest, Rover teams up with Phrolova to stop Fenrico, who has fallen under the manipulation of Leviathan, from seizing the Lost Beyond and the Trinodian's residual energy, which would result in the Dark Tide descending upon Renacita. While traveling together, Rover gets to uncover the true reason behind Phrolova's actions, her wish to bring back the people of her hometown who died a long time ago. She wants to get her hands on the gem containing Leviathan's residual energy to fuse tacit discords with the frequencies of the people from the Lost Beyond and basically revive them. While she tried to fuse tacit discords and human frequencies many times in the past, she was never successful in fully reviving someone. After Rover and Phrolova confront and defeat Fenrico, they end up in an impasse and they end their alliance. Phrolova wants to get the gem, while Rover, while slightly shocked after learning about his and Phrolova's past, firmly confronts her, saying that her wish is impossible and that she doesn't understand the value of human life. Phrolova calls him a hypocrite since what they did is basically the same thing, which can be argued, but I think that while Rover was justified in not trusting her and trying to stop her, they also are far from perfect, and it's indeed hypocritical of them to act like a hero of justice. Overall, it doesn't matter who is right and who is wrong, and that's one of the strongest aspects of this story. You can clearly see where everyone is coming from and understand why they act the way they do. While I agree that Phrolova needed to be stopped, Rover, for the first time, felt like a flawed human rather than the perfect hero. They end up fighting and the gem falls into Christopher's hands, who swoops in and takes it, while Phrolova is stabbed by Rover's sword and falls off Lumen Tower. So, the question that everybody's looking for an answer to: is Phrolova still alive? A lot of people seem to think that Phrolova died, which is false. Actually, it is stated very clearly by Rover that Phrolova is still alive. After Phrolova fell from the tower, she ended up merging with the Lost Beyond. Since the Lost Beyond was created through Phrolova's own frequencies, the space was always trying to fuse with her throughout the story quest, and that is why she tried to delay it until she managed to revive her people, but after Rover stabbed her, the fusion occurred anyway. So no, she is not dead, she just fused with the Lost Beyond. The Phrolova we meet inside is a projection of her own consciousness inside the Lost Beyond, since the place is already part of her body. You have to understand that throughout the story it is made abundantly clear that Phrolova is immortal. A stab like that couldn't possibly kill her. She can regenerate her body from literally anything. Look, if a meteor shower isn't enough to fully kill her, I don't think that a stab from a twink with a sword has any chances. While we don't know exactly where she is, it's most likely that Phrolova is still alive. She isn't trapped in the Lost Beyond either, like many people believe. The Lost Beyond is literally part of her body. It's like saying that you're trapped in your own foot. It doesn't make any sense. Now that we made it clear that she's not dead, could she return? In my opinion, Yes, more than likely. But when, how and under what circumstances? We don't know. I don't think that she will be part of the Frexidus anymore. She might be an ally, although the relationship between her and Rover is complicated. But while researching for this video, I found this very interesting theory from the CN community. Remember that Phrolova told Rover that the violin gifted to her by her village was the most perfect gemstone? The issue was that she was unable to find it, so she decided to use the gem imbued with Leviathan's powers as a substitute. Later, Rover sees the violin inside the well in the Lost Beyond and tries to pull it out, but they are pulled instead inside a vast body of water. Well, when Phrolova falls off the tower, we see her ending up in a similar place where she finds the violin and starts playing. Because of that, she no longer needed the gem, and we see the people from the village gathering around her while Phrolova incorporates their frequencies into her last tune, giving them a new life inside her body in the Lost Beyond. While this still does not equate to a true revival, it means that it was Rover who managed to help her find the violin, and not only that, they were also able to keep their promise. Remember that during the flashback between Rover and Phrolova, Rover promised to return after the piece of music she wants to create is complete. And, well, now it is. Of course, this is just a theory, but it has some merit to it, and this would make it more likely to have Phrolova return as an ally, although I wouldn't mind having her back as a more neutral figure, not fully on Rover's side but not against them either. Phrolova is a tragic character who suffered a lot, a perfect example of how time and loss can strip away your humanity until all that remains is just a strong obsession. Phrolova is a great antagonist / morally grey character who reminds me a lot of another very good antagonist from another game I like, Auto Apocalypse. I honestly didn't believe that Kuro would be able to pull off her story with such masterful tact, but I was proven wrong. If this is a glimpse into the future stories, all I have to say is this: keep cooking, Kuro.